Welcome back to the Keys to Success podcast. We're so glad that you guys are here with us this week. This has actually been an amazing week so far. A lot of opportunities presenting themselves. So, Deba, life is good. How are things going with my co host, my beautiful co host, Deba Douglas?
Everything has been really good. I feel like maybe we're on the same wavelength of an alignment, but this week has been really, really nice because I've been able to help so many people get connected where I may not be involved with like them money, but I can connect people with other people where they can all grow and make money. It's been really good.
That's honestly the way to do it, like connecting with people, helping people. Like that's literally the way that we are able to become successful, by helping others out, and in return those good things just kind of start to happen. So yeah, I definitely feel like we're both in alignment as far as that goes. But without further ado, we have a very special guest on the podcast today. Maurice Sims is we share the same mastermind together. He is a brilliant real estate investor, super humble. You've got like a ton of just institutional knowledge. And so, Maurice, for the people, can you go ahead and just explain who you are, your background, and then we'll kind of just go from there.
Yeah. I appreciate the opportunity to join you guys' podcast. I've been seeing it for a few weeks, so I was happy I got the invite. Uh,
Awesome. Thank you for
yeah,
being here.
no biggie. So yeah, I mean, I'm in my fifth year, full-time real estate investor. I specialize in mostly buying creatively, right? Creative financing. But the reason why I do that is because we have a program that we help people become homeowners. We buy single-family homes, pick them up, fix them up, clean them up, and then we put families in them and help them to be able to buy them from us in a 2-year period, right? So
Yeah.
for the real estate, it really allows us to do that, and we've been really successful at it, helping a lot of people who have been long-term renters, right, become homeowners in a short period of time.
That's
Wow.
cool. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What state are we doing this in, Maurice?
So I'm out of Denver, Colorado. So we do it in Colorado, we do it in Ohio. I'm outside of Columbus. We do it in Oklahoma City, and then Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay, nice.
So, Maurice, so tell us, because this is a very unique strategy, how did you get involved, or what made you want to start looking out for renters and helping them become homeowners? Was there a situation that happened, in your earlier childhood, or where did that kind of desire come from?
Yeah, I mean, so I was lucky enough growing up to where my mother always a single family household, but she always owned a home. We always lived somewhere. I've only lived in like probably my whole childhood, probably two places my whole life, right? And then as I got older, I was lucky enough to buy a home at a young age too. But so many people around me, even in my family and friends, weren't homeowners, right? So when I started to decide that real estate was something I wanted to get into, I wanted to try to fix that problem. I wanted to try to use these strategies and this opportunity in real estate to try to help bridge that gap between the people who can get a pre-approval letter and the people who can't. Because there are people that can't get a pre-approval letter, but are hard work and make good money, and have a desire to become a homeowner, but they just don't have it presented to them, right? Or they don't understand how far away or close they are to being homeowners. So my ideas when I started in real estate was to fix that problem. And so from day one, I was trying to build a company and a process that would allow middle class families to become homeowners in a 2-year period.
Wow. I love that. Oh, go ahead, Deborah.
Let me this because I know we're jumping right into this. And you said that you have been in being a real estate investor for 5 years.
Yeah.
What did Maurice do prior to getting into real estate?
Yeah. So prior to that, right out of school, I was a engineer for Lockheed Martin. I was engineer for them for a while, and then they kind of dissolved that because we were in Colorado. So a lot of the stuff we built, like the space shuttles, it was for security reasons. But as national security got better, it wasn't a big deal to build it in the middle of the country. We could go back to the coastlines. So that happened, and so I stayed home and didn't move. I tried for a little bit in Houston, but didn't like it. So came back, and then I was at a print company for like 15 years. Right. So I was a manager of a print company, kind of similar to like a Kinko's. I'm probably dating myself, but Kinko's used to be something that was really popular. So we were that. It was a big print company that I think we're the largest on this side of the Mississippi, and we did like wedding magazines, sporting events. But inside of that big company, we had a smaller digital department that I ran. We do more business cards, flyers. So I did that for 15 years. I had a crew of about 10 people. And similar to all of us that get into this space, when we're a W-2 employee, you start to feel like, or you start to realize, right, that somebody else is kind of controlling your time, how it's spent. When you go on vacation, when you can go to lunch, what time you can come to the building, leave the building, right? But more importantly for me was I realized that not only my value was had a ceiling to it, right? Someone else was determining what my value was. More importantly, that if I stopped working there, food stopped hitting the table for the family.
Right.
And that's what pushed me to real estate.
So how did you get into it?
So I got into it. I had a couple buddies that I grew up with, and they had rentals by accident. Like they kept their first home and bought the second one, and then they finally sold it. So both of them had a really good chunk of money. And we reached out and was like, man, we want to do something this. We want to get invest into something to invest in. So I started digging, and I came across real estate, and for some reason it just clicked with me. Like I just understood it. For some reason the principles made sense to me. And then, like I said, that passion of realizing that I might have a lot of power to be able to do something in this space that is really rare.
That's beautiful. And so when you decided to leave, the printing company, did you already have properties, or what was that transition of?
Yeah, I had nothing. I had no property. So I had a goal before I turned 40 to be debt free. And I did that at 38. So that helped me decide to leave and go to real estate, right? It gave me that freedom to be like, okay, let me go into this and build this. So I spent a year prior to leaving my W-2 kind of like really educating myself, right? Educating myself, ton of podcasts, books, like we all do, YouTube, whatever leads us down that rabbit hole, right? I had done that for a year, but I was pretty clear on strategy. I just had to figure out how to line that up. So when I kind of got real clear out that I had a really good business plan, I left it and been all in since then.
Wow. I mean, I'm like, I have so many questions. This is so good.
Me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so Maurice, you said that you became financially free before you started real estate.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
debt free, not financial free, but
Okay.
I became debt free.
Debt free. Okay.
Yeah.
So for those people that are out there right now and they are at their W-2 job, they also want to become debt free before they start their journey. What are some things that you did to become debt free, and how long did that take you?
Yeah, I want to say it took me probably 18 months, maybe 2 years, right? But it was just basically, writing down all my debts, right? And taking my income, right, into figuring out what I had extra and the best way to leverage that extra, right? And commit to it. I mean, anything that you're going to do when it comes to money is about committing to it, right? Having a clear path, have a clear understanding of what you're trying to accomplish, and commit to that. With no excuses, right? Life changes, things come up, but if you commit to where you're trying to go, you'll get there. And so that's what it was. I just took what was extra and we started applying it and putting it to, and we started with the lower amounts. And as the lower amounts got paid off, we combined that payment with the next payment and kept going. And we just kept working uphill until we got there.
This is kind of like the Dave Ramsey snowball method, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So for those of you who may not be familiar with that method, I mean, this is like the method that your grandma teaches you. Start paying off your bills. Start with the very smallest bill. If you've got $500 extra, after you've paid all your bills, you take that $500, you pay off your smallest bill. Once that bill's paid off, then you go to the next bill and you're going to apply that $500 plus whatever you have remaining, since you no longer have to pay the first bill anymore. So anyways, just kind of want to elaborate on that real quick, just in case somebody's trying to figure out how to pay down that debt. Deb, I'm going to let you ask some questions because I know that you were. Go ahead, girl.
Was it? Because I am so nosy. So I want to know, like, how much debt 18 months were you guys able to pay off?
That's a good question. I want to say, let's see here. It was probably about 80,000, probably.
Okay.
80,000 we took off.
Like, what kind of debt were we talking?
It was mainly things like I bought ATVs for the family. So it's 5 of us total. So we had ATVs we had bought. I bought a new truck. She had bought a new car. So we took all of that stuff. And then like credit cards, not a lot of credit card debt, but mainly was like new purchases and things that we had done. We traveled a lot with the kids, so we kind of had some high on our travel credit cards and things like that. So we kind of started that method, and then in conjunction with profit first, right? We put profit first into our lives, and that give all your money a job, right? And so when we were setting that aside for debt, it was easy to use that method to pay the bottom one off, because that's what that money was for. It wasn't well, I need to take 200 from that because now we got to get groceries. Groceries already had a job. There was already money that took care of groceries. So you could do that unconsciously, right? And apply it to it. So
Right.
those are the two biggest strategies.
That is really beautiful. And I really love you being detailed and explaining that, because I think a lot of people are in the situation that you were in, where you want to do this. You guys are making a decent salary where you guys can live this lavish life, but deep down inside, you're still you're indebted to the job because you still need the income, but you still want to do bigger things, but you can't because the things that you have paid for is what's holding you back.
Yeah.
So kind of talk to us a little bit more about the emotional and the discipline, because there were probably a lot of no's that you had to share with friends and family. Like, no, we can't go on that trip. No, we can't go to that nice steak dinner. Because
for sure.
The psyche that a lot of people deal with of like, oh, we can't afford it. How did y'all deal with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, to me, it all comes back to clarity. Everything you're going to do in this life, if you're clear about it, because the clarity gives you that purpose, right? There's a reason why you came up with the distinct reason why you want to do something, right? So that clarity will give you the motivation. The problem is where we fail at is because we want to do these things, but we're not clear why we want to do it, right? We're not clear why I want to have a savings of $5,000. Well, why do you want to have it? Just to have it? Well, then that's why you don't accomplish it. But if it's something that you want to obtain, or there's something that you want to change in your life, that gives you clarity. So then the clarity is what you fall back on when there's a shortcomings, right? When there's a not enough, or maybe I could take the family out to eat, or maybe I could save this $300 so I can get to the $5,000 mark, right? It's clarity in that. And when you have clarity and that's attached to a reason, a purpose, then you won't fall off the tracks. But we just don't take enough time to identify why we want to do something, what the purpose is behind that. The other thing that people fail at is when you come up with a purpose, you don't attach a date to it. A purpose without a date is just floating in the air. You can move it, you can push it around, you can push it back. But the minute you attach it to a date, now you can reverse that back, what we call reverse engineer that. And what kind of commitments do I have to make if I want that in 6 months, a year, 2 years, right? You know what you have to do, and you can break that down for monthly, weekly, daily, right? And so once you do that and you get clear about that, it's easy to say no. It's easy to say that we don't do these things, right? That I don't want to do this because I'm doing this, because you're clear about it and you know what your goal is from a weekly, daily, monthly basis.
That's beautiful. I really hope our listeners are listening to that, because taking 3 or 4 steps back for a short time, which for Maurice, it was only 18 months, for him to now be in a place where I'm sure he's like, I can do whatever my kids want. We can do whatever. And I don't have any debt because of the passive income. And you're making a bigger impact to the community. Yeah. That's huge. So
yeah.
Question. Sorry. I think
you're all good. That's what we're here for. You're here for whatever you need.
Okay. So you get out of $80,000 worth of debt. And now you're like, I'm going to jump fully into real estate. And you mentioned that you're doing this with creative financing. Please share with our viewers, what is creative financing?
Yeah, so creative financing is finding ways to leverage other people's money, right, or resources, right? So, and it doesn't always necessarily mean that it has to be physical money, right? In real estate, we have a thing called equity, right? There's a thing that we bought a house or a property or asset at a certain price, and over time it's worth more. The difference between what we bought or what we owe compared to what it's worth is called equity. There's ways to use equity as for people to lend that for you, to use that as money, as a leverage, right, as a stream to do that. And so that's what we try to do, is we try to use people's equity to finance maybe a transaction, right? We use that. So a person may be owed $50,000, but I'm going to use that to buy it and pay them that $50,000 over time, which will allow me to be more versatile in the real estate space and have more exit strategies.
I love that. Can you give us an example of one of your recent deals that was creative?
Ooh, let's see. Let's
Like
see.
pop.
I have one now where we're working on. It's a $1.3 million house. And the seller owes about 400,000 on it. So he has a mortgage with 400,000, which means he has about 900 in equity, right? And so he can't get his price. He wants to sell for a certain thing. It's a second home. He doesn't even live there, but he just wants his price. And so what we talked about a strategy called a subject to, which means we can buy it and take over the mortgage, the existing mortgage in his name. We can leave it in place and pay it for him. What that allows me to do is I don't have to come up with that $400,000 cash, right? I can keep that in place and pay that for a certain period of time. We agreed to 4 years on that. And then on his equity, which is the 900,000, we agreed to $2,100 a month to pay him towards that equity, right? So the power of that is that I can get him his price, but what I'm doing is I'm kicking that total, the grand total down the road, of kicking that can down the road a little while to give me time to be able to do something with the property, to be able to help a family be able to buy it. So the strength in this situation is I could resell the price for the same 103, and I would actually make about 400,000 on this transaction because of the way that it's structured, the way that I'm using his equity and paying it over time, not paying interest on those payments, right? Taking over a mortgage that's already existing where $900 of that mortgage is being paid every time I pay that mortgage. Their $900 is going to the principal. So I'm paying down that loan at a rapid rate, right? So all in total, every month, I'll be paying down this debt of $1.3 million. I'll be paying it down about $3,500 every month. That is a rapid rate that we paying debt back that you cannot get from a bank, right? You cannot get a loan that allows you, no matter what you pay for to pay $3,500 is paid to the principal monthly. And so that strategy and the way that I put that together allows me to offer an opportunity for a family to be able to buy a $1.3 million house and me still make money without me having to resell it at $1.5 million.
Wow. So, Maurice, I have a question. So this is a $1.3 million home.
Mm-hmm.
You are going to help a family get into it so that in the next 2 to 3 years, they can purchase it themselves.
Yeah.
How are you finding these tenant buyers who can afford a $1.3 million mortgage payment?
Yeah. So in this situation, it's a little higher than normally are. Usually we're at median house price, but this opportunity came to me and the numbers made sense we do it. So in this situation, we have to target a different type of buyer. And there's a lot of opportunities. What I didn't realize was like there's Facebook groups. There's all these groups. Sometimes you can go through your local brokerage and they have what they call relocation departments where people call them where they're coming from a New York, from a California. They just sold a property, they have cash, and they're looking to move to these cities for a job, relocation, whatever that may be. So that's how you can get in front of these people that maybe there's someone that needs to move to Colorado for a job opportunity, but they got to get established, right? They might have to, there are some things they need to get in order to be able to do it. The buyer we have in this situation is coming from Australia. He's a VP for a company that moved to Colorado, and he just doesn't have a credit. So he's going to need some time. He makes a ton of money, has enough money to put down. He just needs some time, right? So that strategy works great for a person like that.
Right. Okay. And so because they're renting, you're only getting first month's rent, maybe last month's rent, and deposit up front. It's not like a wrap where you're getting this nice chunky down payment.
No, we do get that. So we have to structure that. The whole point of that program is to allow somebody to be able to own it, right? So what happens is most people, the reason why they can't get financing is usually because of two reasons, usually credit and down payment. So our program helps eliminate those two things, right? First thing is down payment. The first thing we do is to get into our program, we want at least, depending on what strategy you are, if it's a median house, it's usually 1.3.5% is what a first-time home buyer is. Because this is 1.3, it's going to be a jumbo loan, which is going to be 20%. So we have to work up to 20% over this course of the 2 years. But to get in, we want 10% down, right? To get into the program. It's only a credit on the back end. So technically it's income to the company because we're just going to credit it off the back end. So 10% of that 1.3 down, right? And it's a credit off the back end. Monthly, what we do is we don't base it off of rents. We base it off what the mortgage payment would be due at that time. So if I resold it for 1.3, mortgage right now is 6.25. I base that payment on what that mortgage payment would do at escrow, and that's what they're paying monthly. A lot of the times that's quite bigger than rents are, market rents would be. So we have a spread right there. But what that does is allow us to show a lender that that person can afford it over 24 months. They weren't paying rent. They were paying pretty close to what a mortgage should be, right? So now credit isn't as big of a deal because now there's a neutral party advocating for you as that buyer, right? As that what we call resident buyers. It's advocating, say, hey, they've been renting for us for 2 years. They've been paying what a mortgage payment is going to be. They've never been late. And we can present that history, and that helps them be able to be a stronger borrower. Also, by tying down locking down the purchase price at the beginning, if it appreciates, they capture that. So now down payment can be eliminated because mostly a lender wants a down payment because they don't want to lend dollar for dollar. They want some cushion. If they have to foreclose in 6 months, you lost money, not them. So if we have appreciation at the end, well, now bank it's not as big a deal with down payment because they're not lending dollar for dollar, right? And so that's how we help eliminate those two issues that most buyers run into.
So when you are marketing this, try to find someone to come into the house, you're not marketing as, hey, this is a rental. You're marketing this as rent to own, or how are you marketing?
Yeah, so when I first started, we marketed it as a rental. We would go to all the rental platforms and put the properties up as a rental. And we had people call, and then we would kind of let them know that this is kind of what we call a rent to buy house, right? Or we have this program, and we would kind of sort them out there. Now what we do, because we've done it long enough, is we have an open house. When we finish a house, we hold an open house, and we have everyone come in. And when I get enough of them in there, talk about the program, they like the property, that's where we kind of educate them about, the program, the opportunity that we have for that, right? So we do it more in person now, and for a number of different reasons for that. And then what it also does is allow us to use these people to help us find the next deal. So when I have them all there, I tell them, listen, the reality is there's only one person going to qualify. We always pick the most qualified person. But I'll tell you, if you leave here and you find a property that we buy, we'll pay you $1,500. And then you'll be the first one when we're done to qualify for that property before we go public. So what that did was I just sent out a ton of bird dogs. So now every week we get anywhere from 8 to 10 properties a week where people are just saying, my cousin wants to sell, my landlord wants to sell, all of these buyers want to sell, because we created this ecosystem that feeds itself, right?
Wow. That is so cool. Oh, go ahead, Deba.
So talk to us about how, like on paper, how do you structure this? Because this is not a regular lease agreement. What agreement are you using?
Yeah, it's exactly everything what everyone knows is like a lease option. That's what we use for the tenant buyers. The mechanism we use on the back end is a lease option. The power of what we do is our front end work, what we do, tying in with the lender at the beginning, having some minimal qualifications that we sort through. But the mechanism we use is a lease option.
Okay. And are you guys reporting each month them paying to their credit bureaus?
Yeah, we can.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So I do have another question. Maurice, I know that now you've got systems in place. I'm pretty sure you've got a nice lead flow. But when you were starting off, how are you finding these creative deals for somebody who does not have the cash to do systems and pull lists and all that other stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the other power of creative financing. Creative finance and understanding creative finances allows you to move with the market. It allows you to use different strategies for the market. So when I first started, it was right at the beginning of COVID, right? So a little bit before COVID, but that was our main year where we bought a lot of them. And so people were kind of just afraid of them. They were afraid of the houses, thinking it was going to crash. Well, hell, they thought the world was going to burn down, right? So we were able to pick up a lot of houses subject to, right? A lot of these houses were in good condition, or maybe they were just on the market, right? So they already been fixed up, cleaned up. This happened. Now they can't sell it. So we were able to pick them up subject to and not have to do anything to them. So I got lucky enough to kind of start in that way. But then after COVID happened, and then we dropped, the price of money went down, it was harder to find move-in ready houses. So we had to buy distressed properties. So then we use strategies like owner financing. things like that, lease purchases, things like that, so that we can acquire these properties the right way at a discount, still be able to fix them up and sell them either at market value or below market value. Our goal is always to be at market value or below market values, so those families have opportunity to own them. And then now we're back into where money's more expensive. It's hard to get them. So now we're back at expired listings. We can go after listings that didn't sell because there's a price that they want, right? There's a certain price in their mind that they were getting during COVID, or the neighbor got during COVID. Their house is still worth that. And then the reality is it's really not, but I still want that. Well, then an investor like myself can come in because I have the knowledge of that. It's not about what I pay for a house, it's how I pay it back.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay.
Now today you're in several different states. How are you managing your team and managing everyone?
Yeah, we all from a distance. The thing that COVID did is taught us how to work from home, sit on the couch, sit at a desk, right? So as a business owner, when you had to survive and adapt to that, if you didn't keep that in place and open your mind up to like, I can do this anywhere now, then I think you did a disservice to your business, depending on the business type. Don't get me wrong, but we learned that, right? And so now it took off all the restraints, it took off all the fear, right? I mean, I was in my own state and I couldn't go do a open house, right? A walkthrough with somebody because of COVID. I had to trust the people there, and same thing. So if you had to do it in your backyard, you can do it anywhere right now. So that's why it eliminated that fear, which is like, let's just figure out a couple boots on the ground. So I have family members in those areas, and that's what it was. There was no math, there was no market evaluation, because what we do, no matter where I buy a house, there's a family that will live there. So I don't care about the market. I don't care about the location of it. It's just about, do I have people I can trust that want to know about real estate, and let's do that. And so that's why we pick those markets. And it worked really well for us, because the other side of our business is teaching families how to invest in real estate passively, right? So with all of our families that buy a house from us, usually they have equity when they buy. And so what we worked out with our lenders is we go back in a year, 2 years, and we refinance and pull that equity out. We make them a private money lender with us. So we teach them how to invest in real estate passively. So what was important for us is to have different levels of market, so there was no excuse why we can't say no. So if you have $40,000, I can do that in Ohio. If you have 100,000, I can do that in Oklahoma City or Memphis. And if you have 300, $500,000, I can do that here at home. So the idea was not to have any excuses. If I'm going to get you and want you to understand how money works and change the direction of your life, and understand that you have to plan for your future, not just let it fall in your lap, then I wanted to make sure that there was no reason why I would say this doesn't work for you. And that's why we picked those markets.
Maurice, I'm sorry, this work is so important, because we are closing the wealth gap. You are literally contributing to closing the wealth gap. And this ecosystem that you've created, like, goodness gracious, from the beginning to the end, not only are you helping the individual become a homeowner, you're helping them become financially free, but then in return, you've got private money lenders who are there and willing to pull out equity to fund your deals. So, because I was going to ask you, okay, you are purchasing these properties, you're holding on to them for 2-3 years, you're cash flowing, and then you're selling them to the buyer, and then you're doing this all over again. So my thought is, well, is there anything really staying in your portfolio? But with your private money lenders, or your tenants ultimately being your private money lenders, they're able to help fund your other real estate projects. So this is just, it's just amazing. I hope that you guys are hearing this. Yeah, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it still does. And like I tell everybody that gets in the space of, decide what your strategy wants to be in this space, and become really, really good at it. Because what you hear, same thing we all heard, right? When we first got in real estate, it was like wholesale, and then you roll into wholesale into a flipper. Then you go from a flipper into a landlord, right? And the reality of that is, once you get in this space, that they're all businesses. It's not a switch that you can hit. These are all businesses, and there's people that do these as a business. But if you pick one of the strategies and you become really good at it, all the other opportunities will come across your table. I've bought multifamily, I've got Airbnbs, I've got buy and holds, right? But my business, my niche is this. But all the other opportunities will come across your path. So that's my advice. Anybody new, right, getting into this space, is like, don't worry about wanting to do all these other things. That will happen. If you become good at one thing, you will get the opportunities of all the rest of them.
Yeah. This is so powerful, because listening to your story and how you're talking about you are getting people that were lifelong renters, and you get them through your program and turn into not only owners, but now real estate investors all through the same program. That's powerful. And that's really how you change the trajectory in the community.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to then expand and go into different states and really be able to really help, this is the change that people want to see. And I just have to commend you for creating this. I don't know if that was your initial intent,
Yeah.
but this speaks so much volume of what is possible if you release the liabilities and put yourself in a place where you have abundance and you're able to truly grow and help other people. Because your ultimate vision, like you've been saying, is like, make sure you know your end goal. Your vision was to help other people be successful. And in turn of you helping other people successful, you now are becoming successful with you just thinking about the other people's mind.
Yeah, yeah, because this strategy, and I believe that if you pick anything like this, where it's in the purpose to help people or change something in a certain culture, income class, whatever, you're going to run into this. And so you have to understand that if that's what you want to do, it's really not about real estate. I understand real estate and understand how to do it, but my biggest hurdle is trust, because the people that I want to change, they've been trained a certain way. They believe money a certain way. They believe debt a certain way. And now you have to reprogram and change that, right? And so that's where all of our work comes in. It's not in buying a property and putting a family in there and getting them to the finish line. It's getting people to trust you, right? Especially because some of the people, I look like them, right? That's a disadvantage. It's not an advantage. You would think the opposite, but it's a disadvantage. So, but that's the reality of it, right? Is that you have to work on trust. You have to work on presenting yourself at 100, right? Being transparent, right? You sharing your own experiences with people, and so that they understand that, like, this isn't about anything other than you getting the opportunity to do something that you really want to do, and that's become a homeowner.
Wow, that's so powerful. And you've done so much in just 5 years.
Yeah.
But what is the next thing for Maurice? Like, what is the next 5-year plan? What's
Yeah.
next?
So, I mean, our company goal is 200 families in the next 10 years. So 20 a year is our company goal. We would eventually like to get to a point to monthly. We're holding live seminars that's just about money, just about, how money really works, how debt really works, how your credit really works. And then that rolling into, we have a program that will work for you. So one, to educate, because I also learned in this process of doing this is that I'm not the first person to want to educate people on how money and credit works, right? And how they can leverage it to be better. I'm not the first person to do that. But what I also learned is that most people, how they failed is because they didn't create the vehicle. They would get a people together and they would talk about it, but everyone would leave inspired or with the direction, but not knowing where to go. And so the importance for me was to create the vehicle. After I talked to you about what you should do with money, how investing in real estate is important and how that asset can change your life, right? Then I have to be able to give them that opportunity at the end of that speech or at the end of that seminar, right? And so it was important to me to create the vehicle, that there was no, like, if you really want to do this, let's do it, because we have a way to do it. And so that's where I think the success comes from. When you want to change in something in people or some people's lives, you have to create the vehicle, not just educating them. You have to create when you got done talking, there's actionable steps they can take that you can guide them through that path. And so that's what we wanted to do. So that's our goal, is once a month, start to talk to people about money, how that works, share our experiences, what we've done. Every member, so we're a family business and there's 5 others other than me. And our company goal is everyone who works with us buys a property within 2 years, right? So that they can share their story. They did the same program that everyone else is doing that we're trying to get into. And that goes all the way to our VAs. We have 2 VAs in the Philippines. They're in the same program. We're buying a home for them within the 2 years working for us. That's across the board, because when we talking to people, when it's sellers, our resident buyers, our private money lenders, I want my team, my company, to believe in what we do. And if they can experience what they're selling, then it makes it a lot easier for us to accomplish our goals.
Okay, random. Are they buying in the Philippines? Are you buying them out?
Buying in the Philippines.
You better shut up. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Really? Okay, so hold on, because that just opened up a whole nother can of worms. So you're buying property subject to in the Philippines for your VAs.
They can buy cash there, so they don't really have. It's not like there's loans and things like that in there. It's more like a barter system, or cash or something to do like that. So we just reverse engineer what does a property live of cost and where you want to live, right? And this is what it costs, right? Okay, well, this is what you make. We'll bonus every property that we hit. We'll bonus X amount of money. And so this should take us this long to accomplish this, because now you have control over your income. You bring us X amount of opportunities to close on. You should make this, which leads you to be able to buy that property. So we just create the process. We create the system that makes the dream a reality.
Wow. I have a VA company in the Philippines. I'm definitely going to roll this for sure.
Okay. Oh my
Wow.
goodness. All right. So, Maurice, one thing you mentioned that I kind of wanted to go over really quick is that you guys operate a family business.
Mm-hmm.
So which members of your family are included in the business, and how did that all come to be that you guys were all working together?
So it's my mother, my sister, my uncle, my aunt, and a cousin. Those are the ones that work with me. So what happened is after I think the second year in the business, I started to have some success. I knew what I wanted. I knew when I started this that I wanted my family to work, and I knew I did not want to work a bunch of hours a week. I knew that my goal was to work 2 hours a day on the business, no matter what. So when I started, I already started with that in mind. I built everything. I recorded everything I did. I put all of the business into buckets and under different departments when I started, because I knew I was going to do this. So when I got at the end of the second year, I was ready. I was getting busy, and I was like, okay, I'm going to roll this out to the family. So it's about 45 of the family members that I sent out a text message and said, hey, this is what I've been up to. This is what I've been trying to accomplish. I want you guys to come over. I want to do a presentation of business, and I just want to present you guys with something. These 5 people are the only ones that responded. They showed up at the house. I presented the company to them, and we've been rolling ever since.
Wow, that's huge. I bet they probably kicking themselves right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. I've had a few phone calls like, hey, I want to get, nah.
Yeah.
Nah,
Doors closed.
Hey, we built the ship from the bottom up.
There
Right.
you go.
You got to start at the bottom, right? So, but the other thing you hear the experience that people say, don't work with your family, right?
Yeah.
Don't work with your family. Don't ever do that. That's a disaster. And the reason why that is what I've learned is because what we do is our relationship with that family member, we want to carry that over to business, right? So if you got a favorite uncle that you get along well with, you want that same type of relationship to transfer over to business, and it doesn't. It doesn't. So what we did the very first thing we did was did personality test, and we shared that with each other. So the personality test allowed us all to understand each other from a different point of view than an uncle or a mom or a brother or a sister, right? We learned how a person ticks. We learned how they work in a work environment. So once we did that, it allowed me to make sure I put the right people in the right seats on the bus.
That's
So now
beautiful.
people are doing things that they're good at. Their skill set is that if they're not a people person, I'm not going to have them talking to sellers. Makes no sense, right? So everybody is doing something that they enjoy to do, that their strengths are. But more importantly, we all got to hear what somebody's strengths are. So now there's never any argument about why you didn't do that. It's I know you don't like to do that. I'll do that, right? We can step in for each other and slide over for tasks that we know the other person doesn't like, simply because we had to listen and hear how everybody ticks. And that was what's been successful with working with the family.
That's beautiful.
What? Oh my God, that is amazing. I've never even thought to send out a text to the family members and do a whole assessment on their personalities to find you put a lot of thought process into selecting your team. Did you acquire these skills or just this knowing from working in the corporate field?
No, I mean, all this is just from entrepreneurship, right? It comes from clarity. It's from clarity. I wanted to build a family business that was going to bring us X amount of money, a full-time business that we all work part-time. That's what I wanted to build from the beginning. So everything that I've ever looked into, I read, I educated myself, was about how to accomplish that. It comes from clarity. You're going to find it all in books around you. But how do I know I'm reading the right book? How do I know that I'm asking the right questions to another entrepreneur that's a business owner you have to be clear about it. So because I was clear about it, it put me in front of the right things that helped me build the system or realize what I need to know. What do I need? How can I make this successful? Right? What do you need to do to be able to do it? And so just a lot of research and time, but and commitment. But I had to show up at 100 and clear about what I wanted to do. Because if you want to lead a people, if you want to send somebody down that path, you have to be willing to stand up and commit to something.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Oh
this
my
is
goodness.
such a great episode. And as we're wrapping up, I do have one last question.
Yeah.
So you guys went through paying off $80,000 debt, and then now you're up and running and you're having this great successful business. Please share with our viewers one of your most lavish purchases or trips that you took after you got to the point of like, now we live in the real life, we live in it big.
I haven't yet. I haven't done that. We haven't hit that spot yet. I'm not satisfied until, everybody is in that position to do, because my perfect situation is that I call these family members and I call my loved ones and say, we're getting on a private plane tomorrow and we're going to X for X amount of days. That is if I do that, if I make that phone call, I'm successful. So for me, it hasn't been that, outside of the kids having what they want, what they need, but they're in the trenches too. They bought their first rental last year. They manage it. They do everything for it. So my family is not at a point to where we feel like it's time to do that thing. We're at a point to where everything has to be in order, has to be in a row, and we have to have complete financial freedom before we decide to do that and go there. Because I don't want to get off the tracks. I don't want to do that for a moment and be like, well, we should just do this every month. And we're not yet there where we can do that every month and do it. To me, that's false hope. And I don't like that. I want to stay locked in and get us there. So we haven't done it yet, but we will.
I love it. And you are always intentional about your date. So what is your date?
My date is in 3 years. In my 3 years, we should be good to go. We should, we're going to increase by $1 million in profit every year. And we should be able to do that.
That's
so wait. So you said, hold on, I got to go back to something. You said the kids have their own property and
they bought their
it.
first
Okay.
rental in the last year.
How old are the kids, Maurice? I know your kids are little.
My oldest is 19, 15, and 13.
Nice.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So they did everything. They talked to the seller. They negotiated what it was. They cleaned the property out. They advertised it. They got all the rentals. It's actually a property of my oldest daughter's school. So we've got one by her college. We found one there that she could live in and live for free, but we rent out all the rest of the rooms. So they manage the property. We just went this summer and had to do a bunch of spring cleaning and do it. So they do all that. They manage everything and they watch the, profits come in and everything. They do everything. They're clearing about $1,300 a month on this property that they're doing. So.
Wow. Yeah. Congratulations. And that's how you really change the trajectory, because now you've shown and you've taught your kids and now they're actually able to implement it and execute. So, that's awesome. That is.
Yeah.
Wow. Maurice, this has been such an amazing interview. You are doing some amazing things in the world. I want to commend you for just being who you are, just having the heart that you have. You stand out in our mastermind, and it's for obvious reasons. And so one last thing before we go, somebody out there wants to get started, but they're getting in their own way. They lack consistency. They lack determination. What is one final word that you can give to somebody that may be struggling through this right now to help them get over that hump?
Yeah. The first thing is what I talked about before, clarity and figuring out. So if you want to get in real estate, the reason why you want to get into it is for that freedom number, right? That freedom number. That's what you're trying to shoot for. We all know that. We all feel like that's what we want. The wealth number is something different, but that freedom number is usually the first one we're targeting. So the first thing you have to do is, outside of everything, is figure out what that number is, right? What is that number? What do I feel like that number is, monthly or weekly, whatever that is, that gives me that freedom, whatever freedom means to me, right? If that's traveling, taking the kids, doing whatever, going to see family, whatever that is, you have to take that number and you have to say, okay, this is what that number, $10,000. Okay. So we figure out that number and we have to give that number a date. I want that number in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. right? Because it's a big difference. If you tell me you need $10,000 in 6 months, we got to get working. If you want 10,000 in 5 years, we can do that. But what happens is when you find that number and you give it a date, well, now we can go into real estate and we can talk about strategies. We can talk about what kind of strategies would I have to do to be able to create $10,000 worth of passive income in 3 years, right? So then when you go in and eliminate what the best strategy to do that, now we have clarity on what we're listening to, who we're following, who we want to mentor, who we want to have coach, right? What programs we're going to sign up for. So to me, when you're starting, start there on that number and why you want to get in real estate and identify that. And then when you back that up, when you reverse engineer that, you're going to be clear about what you should be doing. Maybe it's not wholesaling. Maybe you should be doing Airbnbs, right? Maybe, you know what I mean? But we all start without knowing where we're going. Figure out where you want to go and then work backwards, and everything else is clearer for you. You won't do like I did and signed up for 15 different coaching programs. And I go through my drive and I'm like, I forgot to even pay for that. I don't even know what that is, right? Because we all been there, right? We sit on a webinar and we're like, oh, I want to do that. Somebody's thinking right now, I want to do exactly what he's doing right now. But they spent the last year wholesaling or trying to figure out how to wholesale, right? Like, commit to it, learn really good at that thing, and everything else will follow along with it, right? But you got to figure out where you want to go. What is your end game? What does that money look like to me? And then I could figure out my strategies, right? Maybe because if it's $30,000, maybe it's none of this. Maybe you need to be getting multifamily off jump, right? Like, I don't know, but you have to understand where you want to go and what kind of money you're looking for. And then the strategies will dictate which ones qualify for that.
You know what this reminds me of? The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. They go by the saying of start with the end in mind. Mm-hmm. And so, like Maurice is saying, find out what your goal is. And when he's saying reverse engineer it, when you start with the end goal in mind, if you know I want to make $10,000 a month, then every action step that you choose to do on a daily basis should be in alignment with whatever that end goal is. And it may not even be financial. It may be that you want to have a better relationship with your spouse, or you want to have a better relationship with your children. So if you start with the end in mind, what is the end in mind? Well, I want to have an amazing relationship with my daughter. I want us to go on trips together. I want us to have a healthy bond. And so what do I need to do today to make sure that my end in mind, which is me and my daughter having an amazing mother-daughter relationship, what am I doing today to contribute to that? Am I yelling at her? Am I belittling her? Or am I lifting her up on a regular basis? Am I supporting her in her goals? And so that's what he means when he says reverse engineer, start with the end in mind, and then kind of work from there. So I love this. Maurice, thank you so much.
No problem.
This was so amazing. Deborah, do you have any final words before we end this? I know we're supposed to end like 10 minutes ago.
This was so good. I commend you for not only you creating and changing the trajectory for your kids, but for everyone around you and in your family. I mean, thank you so much, Maurice. This is awesome.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you guys having me on and hearing it. I feel like the more people that hear it, the more people can think like this, because it takes more than me. It takes more than me to think this way and legitimately want people to have a better opportunity so that we can survive. This world is not getting anything but harder and more expensive. And the more that we can talk about it, enlighten people and teach them to think outside the box and do for others, you'll make money. That's not about that. But we all as a group have to start trying to, change the way that we understand money, man. We don't understand how money works. We've been taught the wrong way a long time. And so we have to start to rethink that and redo it the way that some of the other people in this world have done for hundreds of years, right? It's time for us to learn how to do that the right way. And we just have to educate each other. That's all it is. It's not, there's no stop signs. There's no laws against us doing any of this stuff. Nothing. No one's going to stop you from doing it. It's just educating it, but you have to be clear about it. You have to be clear about what you're looking for, the type of information that you're looking for. You have to be clear about it and you'll get it. But if you're not clear, if you're walking into a room and you're like, I'm just trying to figure this out, you're not going to get it. But if you're clear about, listen, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to accomplish. I know there's a way to do this. Help me figure this out. Right. You'll get there. You'll get there.
Maurice, if somebody they want to work with you, they want to be your next tenant, they want to send you some deals, how do you want them to reach out to you?
Yeah, the best way is WCS Property Solutions on all the social media. That's the best way, man. You're going to see all the videos we do, all the pictures. You know what I mean? You're just going to kind of get used to us on there, and then you can always DM directly from there. And just, I'm always open for a conversation, man, to see how I can help or put you in the right direction. So,
Awesome. So our viewers that are watching right now, I see you guys in the comments. Make sure you guys go and follow Maurice Sims. He's on Facebook and he is also on Instagram. And his company is WCS Property Solutions. And so thank you so much, Maurice, for being here today. We appreciate you, and hopefully we can have you on the podcast again soon.
Always. Just let me know.
All right. You guys have a great week, and we will see you next week. Bye.